So we've come to our final lecture of these 2 days, and so pleased to have with us Professor Miroslav Volf, who is professor of theology at Yale Divinity School, and also the founding director of the Yale Center for Faith and Culture. And Andy and I have to credit Miroslav with introducing us to Hartmut Rosa, because I believe it was you who brought Hartmut over, and Andy was there at an event, and I think he introduced a paper, and Andy sent me that paper and said, "You've got to read this paper," and that was it. That got us going. So you, Miroslav, are the one responsible for all of this, bringing him into our orbit. Thank you. Miroslav is also a member of the Episcopal Church in the USA and the Evangelical Church in Croatia. He's involved in international ecumenical dialogues and interfaith dialogues in all kinds of ways across the globe. Miroslav, it's genuinely an honor and a privilege to have you with us. Welcome.
Good day to all of you. If you see me grimacing on occasion, you can be assured that it's only some sciatica pain shooting down my leg and nothing else. But I'm very much hopeful that I can survive this really well. I'm really delighted to be here. I am just really sorry that I couldn't be here during the rest of the conference. I had a prior engagement before this invitation came my way, and so I just came from Chicago this morning, or midday. And one doesn't know what to do when one's the last speaker and hasn't been to hear everything that preceded it. So all those questions that I might have been answered to the satisfaction of everybody. I'm going to make claims that will have been debunked during this conference, and so it goes. But well, that's the risk. So my title of my presentation is Resonance and Love, a Zosimian conversation with Hartmut Rosa. Zosimian refers to Zosima of the Dostoevsky's brothers Karamazov. So I'm going to try to think the two of them into one another, or at least to ask the questions of Rosa that I think Zosima might ask him. The subtitle of Resonance, Rosa's impressive magnum opus, is a sociology of our relation to the world. The backdrop of the book is the widespread sense that in modernity, the world has become both mute and the point of aggression. He writes, the categorical imperative, categorical, not hypothetical, categorical imperative of late modernity is act always in such a way that your share of the world is increased. This, he continues, is the dominant principle behind our decision-making in all areas of life, across all ages, from toddlers to elderly. The result is a systematic, low-grade aggression with frequent flare-ups in the society as a whole. The muteness of the world is both the cause and the consequence of that aggression. Resonance is Rosa's response to this most critical challenge of modernity that threatens the very survival of humanity, as Paul was mentioning toward the end of his presentation. Dostoevsky's Brothers Karamazov could be subtitled as a literally religious exploration of our relation to the world. The backdrop of this book, too, is modernity's disturbed relation to the world. It shows up not just in the character of modern life, but also in many proposals to improve the world, all of which, in his view, treat the world as if it were a machine and therefore an object of rational redesign. In Dostoevsky's view, such reforms compromise human freedom and can be achieved only through aggression. Zosima is key Zosima is his key response to the world reformers persuaded that, and now I'm quoting a very different thinker, Stephen Lucas, its response to world reformers persuaded that the right design and the final argument can be, must be, and will be found. Relationship to the world is the main topic of the stories from Zosima's life and his homilies, which make up the book 6 of the novel. As Dostoevsky himself stated, book 6 is a response to book 5, which tells of the encounter between two brothers, Alyosha and Ivan. Ivan, I want to say, being Slav myself. It largely consists of Ivan's account of his own relation to the world. Now, these two books together are the heart of the novel. In the first part of my talk, I will sketch Zosima's account of his love for the world against the backdrop of Ivan's rejection of the world. In the second part, I will explore how Zosima's love for the world relates to Rosa's resonance with the world. This exploration will mostly consist of questions Zosima might ask Rosa. Early in their let's get acquainted conversation, I think I have to decide which one will I use, Ivan or Ivan. Okay, it's going to be Ivan, so that we know who we're talking about. So Ivan tells Alyosha, if I did not believe in life, if I were to lose faith in the woman I love, if I were to lose faith in the order of things, even if I were to become convinced, on the contrary, that everything is disorderly, damned, and perhaps devilish chaos, if I were struck even by the horrors of human disillusionment, still, I would want to live. And as long as I have bent to this cup, I will not tear myself from it until I have drank it all. Ivan, in fact, loses faith in the woman he loves and in the order of things. He does think that the world is chaotic. His hypotheticals in this quote are actuals, in fact. But he still wants to live. And the question is then why? What conquered his determinate rejection of the world as disgusting and undeserving of love? His demonstrative returning the ticket to God. The answer, I think, is in the cup, in that cup that he mentioned earlier. There is still, he says, this wild and perhaps indecent thirst for life in me, this thirst for life despite of all. As long as there are things to slake this thirst, as long as there are things that please him, he can both reject the world and still want to live in it. Ivan's thirst is love. But what kind of love? He loves particular things. The sticky leaves of spring, blue sky, some people, some deeds. And he loves them as long as he loves them. His love is a desire for what is pleasing in the broad sense of this term. In Martin Luther's formulation from Heidelberg Disputation, it is love that receives rather than gives something good. It is self-concerned, selective, and temporary. Inwardly standing at the distance from it, he assesses the world, finds it wanting, but takes no responsibility for it. He sees himself neither implicated in any way in world's devilish state, nor willing to work to set at least some portion of it aright. Let me see whether I'm actually reading from the last version of my text, which I was editing still when I was on the airplane, and I'm not sure that it sang. So I'll try one more time to open this thing. I think I am. So let's see what's going to happen. I think it's going to. The other one's good too. Okay. Okay, Zosima now. Zosima's stories and homilies circle around the character of proper love for the world, an alternative both to Ivan's rejection of the world and, importantly, I think, in my view, to his way, Ivan's way of loving the world. Here's a quote. Brothers, he says at one point, do not be afraid of men's sins. Love man also in his sin, for this likeness of God's love is the highest of love on earth. Love all God's creation, both the whole of it and every grain of sand. Love every leaf, every ray of God's light. Love animals, love plants, love each thing. If you love each thing, you will perceive the mystery of God in things. Once you have perceived it, you will begin tirelessly to perceive it more and more of it every day. And you will come at last to love the whole world with an entire, universal love. The universal scope of Zosima's love, accentuated in this text by the repeated use of all, every, each, whole, stands in contrast to the selectivity of Ivan's love, evident in his repeated use of some people, some things, and singling out of some natural phenomena. Zosima's loving every leaf and every ray of God's sun or God's light stands in marked contrast to Ivan's loving only sticky little leaves and the blue sky. The universality of love implies its unconditionality. First, that humans might be disgusting and undeserving is not an obstacle for such love, but actually an invitation to it. One loves them no matter what state they are in, and in an important sense, precisely because they are disgusting and undeserving, and in such a great need of love. Second, when love is directed to entities neither disgusting nor undeserving, hopefully lots of such entities, but you never know with Ivan actually, right? How many of them are there. So when love is directed to entities neither disgusting nor undeserving, it is not primarily about quenching lovers' thirst. The thirst, both one that appears on the surface and the deeper human thirst, that thirst does get quenched. It is then about honoring the intrinsic and inexpugnable goodness of every creature and of all of them together. Zosima enacts this kind of love in the way he dies. He kneels, he bows down with his face to the ground, stretches out his arms as if embracing the earth, kisses it with joy, and gives up his soul to God. Gripped by such love early in his life, Zosima sought to practice it until his dying breath. The encounter with the enduring character of his love, like its universality, is the consequence of its unconditionality. For one ought to love all things, not for a chance moment, but for all times. Unconditional love abides. If the object of love is in a state that can be celebrated, it rejoices. If it is not, it mourns and takes time to bring back to the goodness from which it has fallen. Mostly, it involves both, as is paradigmatically exemplified in Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment, in Sonia's relationship to Raskolnikov. For Zosima, such love for the world is rooted in God's relation to the world. In the quote above, he foregrounds that such love imitates God's love, that is perhaps its earthly echo. All human loves should be like God's, and the form of God's love is the highest on earth And that form of God's love is the highest on earth, that is directed towards sinful human beings. It is the love of Christ, who can forgive everything, forgive all and for all, as the hymn of the resurrection, which Alyosha quotes to Ivan, puts it. But God's relation to the world is not only that of universal and unconditional love, it is also of universal presence. God took seeds, I'm quoting, God took seeds from other worlds and sowed them on this earth and raised up his garden. And everything lives and grows only through its sense of being in touch with other mysterious worlds. In this sense, if this sense is weakened or destroyed in you, that which has grown in you dies. When you become indifferent, then you become indifferent to life and even come to hate it. Our very life in the world and our proper love for the world is nourished and cultivated by appreciation for God's presence in the world. The world is clearly not dead and mute matter, neither the whole of it nor a single grain in it. For eyes of those who are pure of heart, it all shines with God's glory. Though all of it might be too strong, of a claim even for Zosima. Certain kind of bracketing or certain narrowing is about to follow. It may seem that to love the whole world with entire universal love amounts to whole-scale acceptance of the world in contrast to Ivan's rejection. So Zosima accepts, Ivan rejects, and there we've got the contrast. But everything is loved is not the same as everything is good just as it is. That which is good is loved with delight in the good that it manifests. Love here is attachment to the good, as distinct, importantly, from appetite, which indexes love to some benefit to the lover. I'm trying to differentiate appetitive love and love as attachment here. That which has become disgusting and undeserving of love is loved with self-decentering empathy and active care. The second variant of Zosima's kind of love, decentering kind of love, is the greatest on earth, he teaches. Loving in this way, humans are most like God. The pain and the promise of such love is expressed in Jesus saying, "Very truly, I tell you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains just a single grain. But if it dies, it bears much fruit." Dostoevsky, as you may know, used the saying as epigraph for the whole book. In both these modes, to love is also to recognize one's own guilt and the need for forgiveness. First, not to recognize and appreciate something good as good is to dishonor it. Not to recognize and appreciate something good as good is to dishonor it. Birds of God, joyful birds, you too must forgive me, for I have sinned against you. Praise Zosima's brother Markel. Now, it's not always clear what's the relationship between Markel's perspective and Zosima's perspective and mysterious visitor perspective. They're also layered, one on top of each other, and kind of subsequent descriptions. Sometimes they strike you as the same. Sometimes there are subtle differences. I'm not going to go into possibilities there. They're infinite. This is literature. This is not kind of theology, and I'm trying to make it into theology. So undoubtedly, I'm dishonoring literary style, and I'm sinning, and my guilt weighs heavily on my shoulders here. Now, Markel, how did he sin against the birds? He did not notice their beauty and glory. He did not even know how to love them. Second, not to empathize with and actively care for those who are in the grip of evil is to fail to be like Christ in his greatest liberating love for humanity. In short, not to love is to sin, to fail to properly honor everyone as intrinsically valuable, and to become a servant of all. The account of sin as failure to love everything abidingly is tied to one of the most controversial of Zosima's teachings, that each of us is guilty before everyone and for everyone. This idea is at the heart of his response to Ivan's rebellion. If we were to make Zosima speak to Ivan, he would note that in refusing to accept the world, Ivan is exempting himself from responsibility for the patterns of behavior which make the world unacceptable. The sharp point of that objection is not that Ivan too is a wrongdoer, that he contributes to the present, that he contributes to it for reasons because that he contributes to the reasons for his own rejection on the world. I haven't been writing this strictly for a speaking situation. I should have edited it for this, so they're kind of complicated formulation there. So that's the sharp. It's not the point that he is a wrongdoer, but that he contributes to the reason for his own rejections on the world. It's a kind of paradox in which he is. He contributes to it and objects to that very thing that he is himself is doing. The sharp point of that objection, where am I now? It is rather, here we go. It is rather that he too is guilty for the misdeeds of others. Guilty for not having loved right there where he was. The idea of guilt for everyone and everything presupposes that persons are not strictly individuals, sovereignly relating to the world through discrete acts. Instead, all creation, as Zosima puts it, in creation all flows and connects, touches it in one place and it echoes at the other end of the world. Each is responsible for all. Each is guilty for all. Each needs forgiveness from all. Ivan's form of hostility toward the world both feeds and is nourished by the most intimate and most rapacious of human aggressions against the world, the overwhelmingly appetitive nature of love. If such love defines relation to the world, Zosima's alternative, self-decentering love, will appear as sentimental nonsense. Zosima knows it well. He would have been treated as a madman had he not decided to become a monk. As a monk, in the still pious Russia of the 19th century, he could be honored, but as a holy fool. It's important to emphasize both of these, both holy and foolish, and kind of madmanish in holiness. Still, his kind of love is to be lived in the world, which is where he sends Alyosha, his disciples. Now to Rosa. Resonance with the world is Rosa's alternative of sorts to Zosima's love for the world. But what exactly is resonance? How does it figure in our overall relations to the world? Now, I'll probably be repeating lots of stuff here. I'll try to shorten it a little bit. You know the 4 features of resonance. Okay, skip the 4 features? Absolutely, right? Everybody? Great. We can do that. So let's go here because that's going to be important in my next some of my questions for Rosa. The 4 features of resonance name the objective criteria under which a relationship counts as resonant. Resonance also describes the subjective experience of such a relationship. Because the nature of these four criteria, above all that of uncontrollability, their fulfillment is essentially episodic. They may be there one moment and not the next. On a sunny May afternoon in Roskilde, two friends, one of them is Rosa and the other one am I. He will remember that possibly. I certainly do. On a sunny May afternoon in Roskilde, Denmark, discussing the concept of resonance, two friends are there discussing the concept of resonance, and their relationship becomes resonant, acquiring at one point all four elements sketched. As they look back, they will be able to identify all four of these features. But no amount of planning or good intentions would guarantee that they will be affected in a certain way, that each will really hear the other, and that the relationship will lead to adoptive transformation. Commons may or may not strike home, minds may or may not be on the same page. One of the million distractions may interpose themselves. In the end, the event of resonance comes as a grace, as we've seen gestured, or does not. Though episodes of resonance are unpredictable, there are stable factors conducive to them. First is a disposition to resonance. Dispositionally resonant persons tend to confront the world, including what is strange, new, and other, with both intrinsic interest and high expectation of self-efficacy. Second, there are such things as social affordances of resonant relationships. One can easily imagine them by identifying resonance killers, as Rosa in some places does. For Rosa, these are the logic of dynamic stabilization, characteristic of late modernity, and second, all forms of repression and oppression. The first, dynamic stabilization, excludes or hinders dispositional resonance, and second, undermines people's capacity to enter into resonant relationships by undermining their experience and self-efficacy. Third factor, making resonance more likely, are axes of resonance, long-term relationships or spheres of life that repeatedly offer themselves as site of resonant episodes. Those axes form the basis for Rosa's critical sociology of resonance. But episodic experiences of resonance themselves seem to be what makes for a successful relationship to the world. Or not? That's going to be my question also. That is to say, emphasis here being episodic experiences of resonance. Now, in preparation for a direct Zosimian engagement with Rosa, it may be helpful to sketch how Rosa's account of resonance may fit into the larger frame in which Zosima's account of human relations to the world can be situated. The categories of that frame will be mine, but they fit Zosima's approach, I believe. First, following the use of the word in the Hebrew Bible, we can call peace the objective social and natural conditions under which people can flourish, including their own personal states of being. It can perhaps be described as the dynamic harmony with unanticipated and startling twists. In Rosa's account, this understanding of peace could correspond roughly a personal disposition to resonance together with all the social conditions and axes of resonance. Second, let's call love the work to establish the conditions of peace and possibility of joy. In Rosa's terms, this would be something like engagement in emancipatory and transformative praxis. Third, let's call the emotional side of positive relation to the world joy. Not entirely unlike Rosa's events of resonance, Joy is an affective response to some state of affairs deemed to be good, a response that is both passive and active at the same time. Those objective states deemed good can then be, those objective states over which one rejoices can be either agency, which is to say love, or certain kinds of sets of affairs, which would be peace. One rejoices over one righteous deeds. You have that in the Bible, actually. Some of us in Lutheran tradition who are appreciative of Lutheran tradition might be a little skeptical of this, but nonetheless, it's there in Deuteronomy. And one rejoices about objective conditions and environments in which one finds oneself. Finally, all these, peace, love, and joy, occur in the world construed as a realm of God, realm that God created, upheld, indwelled, and energizes. In Rosa's work, what does that correspond to? Here's my possible suggestion. It might correspond to the phenomenological claim that my existence always includes presence of a pre-objective something floating around me. Or it might refer to that unnamed condition of possibility of resonance, unnamed condition of possibility of a responsive world to which he gestures when he writes that the idea of a responsive world ultimately cannot be defended from within the cognitive horizon of enlightened, rational modernity, according to which the universe presents only a silent drama performed under the direction of the laws of nature. And now to my questions. I have 10 questions for Rosa. and they build on various aspects of Zosima's account of love and ask how do these fit together. For Zosima, love for the world is not an event, though it may contain events of intense attention, fondness, and hard work. It is rather an enduring disposition to care abidingly propelling person to empathy and action, to strive to bring individual creatures and creation as a whole into dynamic state of peace. Zosima's phrase is active living love. In Rosa's work, would the disposition to resonance, along with emancipatory and transformative praxis aimed at creating conditions of resonance, at least partly overlap with this aspect of love? If it doesn't, how different would it be? What would be the difference? Second, in life as in death, Zosima rejoiced and invited people into joy. His joy could be an episodic ecstasy, or it could be a more abiding spiritual joy obtained by the righteous as a reward from God for a life of love. God can give one gladness of a bird in the sky. As experience, defined by objective criteria, resonance is akin to joy, but it is episodic. In our public conversation in Roskilde, Rosa gestured toward the possibility of something like second-order abiding resonance. He even noted the need for it in his system. If he were to develop it, might it be better to think of the events of resonance as secondary, peak modes of resonance, and the most enduring resonance as more basic, the primary form? After all, ontogenetically, a child comes to resonate with the world first in the womb, not in the peak event mode, but in that environment which abidingly calls a child into self-efficacious and transformative responses. Third, for Zosima, unconditional love for the world along with the love for God, which motivates it, is at the center of what one might describe as a good life. At least, it is at the center of the good life until the world has come, in the world that has not yet come into a state of eschatological peace. It is not clear what Rosa considers to be the center of the good life. A life with most resonant episodes? A life with stable access of resonance, whether resonance in fact takes place or not? A life with strong and abiding disposition to resonance? Or what seemed to me least likely, a life of emancipatory and transformative praxis aiming at resonance? And here there are some echoes of what Paul was talking about in the idea of love. A good life could likely or possibly include all of these. If so, which one is decisive? Or is there a decisive aspect of resonance? For Zosima, one important dimension of love in the world is being attentive to the good that every creature represents and honoring it. The birds, for example, against which Markel had sinned just by failing to notice and appreciate them. The assumption of this demand of love is not just recognition of intrinsic value of creature, but also responsibility to honor the creature. So intrinsic value and the demand to honor it, right? For Rosa, too, an entity, a person or a thing, who speaks to us and to whom we self-efficaciously respond, appears to be not of just instrumental value, but intrinsically important. Does the appearance of being intrinsically important correspond to reality? Does resonance presuppose actual intrinsic value of that with which we resonate? If so, how is this intrinsic value of things secured in Rosa's account of resonance? 5. Lovers of the kind Zosima imagines are never mere observers, mere assessors, mere gripers, noting and rejecting the states of the world. They're also not mere enjoyers of the world. That's Ivan's kind of selective lover. For Zosima, to love is to see oneself responsible for the good of the world. A small portion of it, and the portion that befits one's capacities, irrespective of the state in which it is, and as long as we last or that portion of the world lasts. Rosa writes, emancipatory and transformative praxis on behalf of distant neighbors, like Aboriginal population in Australia, is something that he would endorse and commends it. But what motivates and sustains such practice? Not a desire to enter resonant relationship with them unless there can be a low intensity relation of resonance with any human at any distance. Is it desire of a person with a resonant disposition to share the experience good of resonance with others? If so, how stable can this desire be? Is there such a thing as an obligation to foster resonant relationship? Perhaps even on the part of the others, right to resonant relationship. If so, how can that obligation or that right be motivated? 6, for Zosima, each of us is responsible not just to improve the world, but perhaps surprisingly and unrealistically, we are responsible for the plight of the world. Now, Nietzsche has famously said, riffing on or echoing Martin Luther, to live is to be unjust. Zosima is more radical than this. We are not only unjust on account of our deeds, we are guilty for everyone's misdeeds and misfortunes. And we are such both by having done what we should not have done and by having failed to do what we should have done. We owe everyone our active love, and hence we also implicitly failed everyone. For Rosa, what, if anything, do we owe others when it comes to resonance events? The objective conditions of resonance and resonant dispositions. For Zosima, the model of love for the world is Christ, a paradigmatic grain of wheat that has fallen into the earth, died, and borne abundant fruit in the knowledge that without such self-decentering act, it would have remained single. Arduous, decentering work that may result in death seems like the very opposite of resonance, but it is the core of Zosima's vision. In resonance frame, how might we think of such radical self-giving, which many admire in Christ, as well as in other religious and non-religious saints, as sacrifices needed to make resonance possible, as sacrifices driven by the overflow of resonant moments, say the widow in the Gospels putting her last 2 coins into the temple treasury, maybe on the heels of a beautiful moment of prayer and devotion. This suggestion, by the way, which is very nicely formulated, comes from my research assistant, Taylor Craig. I want to give him credit here as I'm reading this. But many sacrifices made for others seem both highly admirable and at the same time, at best, very distant from any antecedent and consequent resonance. Indeed, in the light of them, resonance feels petty. 8. For Zosima, alienation is part of the present state of every human and the whole world. The heart and self-decentering labor of love is how a non-alienated life, the good life, often looks under the condition of alienation. We talked about it a little bit in earlier session as well. In Zosima's vision, even so, that is to say, decentering labor of love is how non-alienated life looks under conditions of alienation. Even so, it can be and often is accompanied by great joy. In Zosima's vision, a person living a life of active living love is always already ineradicably also marked by guilt. They are never fully living true life. Or I'll repeat this. I've read this sentence twice. It's really important to me, and I couldn't formulate it easier than it's formulated. So I make 2 attempts. They are living never fully true life, always compromised life, right? They are living never fully true life in the sea of what is never completely false life. So it's not that you have false life out there and you have true life in a self-giving love. True life in self-giving love is always for Zosima compromised, partly alienated, but still somehow true. And the life into which he speaks is never completely alienated, but always already space in which is indwelt by God. So you have this complex relationship between true and false life. Obviously, this is a riff on Adorno's comment, about which Rosa commented this afternoon as well. And to me, that's really important because there's no non-alienation and there's no true life, and yet love, decentering love, happens. And I think that's at the very core of what the Christian faith is about, I would argue. If I understand Rosa correctly, alienation and resonance are mutually exclusive alternatives. They may need each other in a way that one could not make sense or exist without the other, but can the simultaneity of the two be imagined and practiced? Number 9. God's presence in the world and our awareness of that presence, God's agency in the world, including that singular grain that was the God-man falling into the earth and dying so as to bear abundant fruit, all of this make love for the world possible. Rosa has analyzed modern social formations and sketched the social conditions of possibility of resonance. Or better, conditions more conducive to resonance, for it may be that resonance, like love, can come about under social conditions most adverse to it, and that not only despite such condition, but in part because of them. I remember during the war in former Yugoslavia, I was talking to a Serbian priest, and he told me, which the whole place was in this crazy, gripped and totally twisted by the conflict. And then he was telling me about these young people who are coming to him, who live those and desire the purity of life in a way that he just could not imagine how, pardon me, in such shit, such beautiful things can grow. And I think that's true, I think, in many regards about goodness, and I'm trying to ask the question of Rosa in terms of how that might fit with resonance, and suggesting that there may be a possibility precisely of that adverse circumstances create the longing for resonance. Rosa has also noted that the idea of resonant world cannot be defended from within the cognitive horizon of enlightened rational modernity. But how do we get to a world in which resonance makes sense? Does it need to be re-enchanted? We talked about that briefly. In many forms of enchantment, however, resonance of the kind Rosa seeks to articulate makes as little sense as resonance at the fascist rally. Because lots of enchantment, let's be clear about it. I mean, people talk about enchantment as if that's a solution to something. But enchantment is as much of a problem as it is a solution, so that certain forms of secularizations, quote unquote, that one sees in axial religions do not come out of nowhere. They've realized how difficult enchantments can be and how morally completely impervious they can be. So, does it need to be re-enchanted? Probably not. Perhaps poets can make the world resonant again. This is the whole thick book by Charles Taylor, which gives Rosa Hartmut a really wonderful shout out. It's the best that Charles Taylor has read about kind of resonant relationship and analysis that's there. That's some praise, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Perhaps poets can make the world resonance again, but for poetically, this is now a terrible word, and I don't know, I couldn't come up with better one, so I put it in quotation marks. But for poetically induced resonance to make sense, that is to say, for sketch of the world that makes you resonate, as did Romantic poets attempt for many years to do, for it to make sense, might one still need to connect poetic images with ontological claims about the nature of the universe, as Charles Taylor has actually suggested in that book. 10. I'm not sure I'm right about this 10, but here it is, and we can discuss it. The problem of world's muteness. The universe says nothing to us, is central for Rosa, but it figures in Zosima's stories and homilies only marginally. In Zosima's view, the world is not mute. Ears and eyes close to the glory of God in creation render the world mute, as do modern rational design solutions to social problems. His main concern, Zosima's main concern, are pre-modern kinds of violence, the unpredictable violence of tornadoes and bands of marauders, as he gestures to in his discussion of Job, or violence of Lamech-like generals willing to do things like let loose a whole pack of wolfhounds to tear apart an 8-year-old boy for accidentally injuring the foot of their favorite hound. The central problem of the world is that it is tragically undoing its own goodness for Zosima. Zosima's response, an appeal to the mystery of God who cares, does not entirely satisfy, I think. It is still, in fact, not meant to satisfy intellectually, but rather to call people to see themselves always already implicated in the chaos and responsible to act in love. For him, such a world is theater of love until the coming of the Son of God in glory. Does Rosa take muteness of the world and consequent or preceding aggression toward it as the main problem in our relation to the world? If he assumed muteness to be the key problem and imagined resonance as a sufficient response, would we not be skirting the issue of violence and precarity that both ancient axial religions and in their trail modern science and technology were in part intended to address? As an example of such skirting, consider the early Schleiermacher's testimony to his own resonance with the universe, which Rosa cites with approval. I lie on the bosom of the infinite world. At this moment I am its soul, for I feel all its power and infinite life as my own. At this moment it is my body, for I penetrate its muscles and its limbs as my own, and its innermost nerves move according to my sense and my presentiment as my own. What is he talking about? I've had that experience after I read Steppenwolf of Hesse. It just induced it in me. The bosom, though, of the infinite world as a pillow for the heart, but can be only true in our romantic imagination. I'm with Nietzsche. Nothing is more terrifying than infinity. That's what he writes about in Joyful Science. The crucial question for Rosa's impressive book, indeed, it's not just an impressive book, it's a major research program to which this book invites, is in what ways can the concept of resonance deal with the infinite chaos, with the pockets of order that is the world without God? For Zosima too, this is the crucial question for a person living in a world that at the end of the sixth day of creation, God pronounced with delight to be very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Miroslav. Much to consider. Questions? I think I'm just going to throw it to Hartmut to select from that robust list.
Is this being recorded?
Yes.
Excellent. Then I don't have to take notes. I always take notes. When Hartmut speak, I take notes.
Yeah, I try to take notes here. But the problem I had right now is while I was thinking about these questions, which really are all tricky, right? You already were formulating the next one. Before I even had begin to think of answers. Thanks a lot for this really thought-provoking and very deep analysis. And of course, it would be mad to to claim that I now I give all the 10 answers, right? It's kind of impossible. I mean, one thought I had almost persistently, and it might be a starting point for discussion too, right? I mean, you said in the beginning, and it came up again, that Zosima has this idea of embracing the world in love, I think, like this kind of thing, right? And then I immediately thought, and that's what you said, and others would think too. Well, but that's not. I mean, that's not even a possibility. The world is not just something to be loved, right? It has all these, the hostile and the inimical and the alienated and so elements too. So I somehow thought I prefer at this point Martin Buber. I think he says at one point we need to embrace the world in all its horrors, in all ihrem Grauen, right? Accept that the world. The thing we are in, the world, is also deeply disturbing. I mean, Grauen is horror, I think. I don't have a better translation for this. And still embrace it, right? Still being capable of maybe it's probably affirming it, but it's not just affirming it. To embrace it is also to love it, right? So having loving something which is not just good, right? Which is kind of totally ambivalent. So I quite like this idea, but love. I mean, it's something we already talked. I mean, love has many. It's a huge term, right? I mean, so one question is, of course, actually something which is a bit problematically absent in the book is intimate love, right? Relationships, because of course that's very important example, maybe the paradigm example of resonant relationships, but. In the sense you use it here with Zosima, right? I start the book, actually the resonance book, with love, because I have these two figures, female figures, Anna and Hannah, and I describe them in 3 different situations. And I try, actually, I mean, what I had in mind there is a kind of very non yet theoretical, but a kind of almost everyday description of the good life and the what I would call alienated life, or the bad life, right? And I said the difference between is, and then I have these 3 situations. At first, Hannah and Anna are with their families, right? And in the second situation, they are at school, I think, as teachers. And the third is they are in their volunteer. They play volleyball also and I said, what's the difference between the good life and the other life? And I said, well, it seems that I think it was Anna in that case. She loves what she's doing, right? She is kind of in a kind of permanent relationship of love to the world. So I would think that love is a kind of, now the question is, what is it? You said love of the world could not be an event. I would agree with this, right? I would say it's a kind of, I think it's a part of the, what I call dispositional resonance. And I think you hinted at that, right, in your first question, right? It's a kind of basic, what we call in the conference at several stages, no, I forgot what I wanted to say. The disposition, a precondition for responsibility or responsiveness, right? Is the expectancy that there could be this relationship. I think that's what you could call love. I mean, you have to love. The question is, do we have to love before we can experience resonance, or is love the consequence of resonance, right?
Maybe both.
Yeah, I think somehow both.
Sense, yeah.
I mean, in the book, at several points, I struggle with this idea that you have to experience to experience something like a depth resonance, right? That allows you to then have events of resonance towards specific things. So. And one question you had, I think it's actually your second question, which then came up. That's a very interesting, provoking thought. I have tried to actually, when I flew here, I'm a bit like you, right? I was editing a text, and it's on second order resonance, right? Because I think that's important, kind of, and that's a bit the loving relationship to the world, right? Having a more stable axis of resonance, which then allows for events of resonance. Now you say, but even in that article I co-write it with a colleague of mine, and there we claim again that that second order resonance is second order, right? It's a kind of derivative. Once you experience strong peak experiences, then gradually, for example, you go to a concert or to church, right? You go to church, and there you have a strong experience, and then when you go there the next time, you have a kind of second order resonance because you remember it and you expect it, right? And you say, couldn't it be the other way around, right? I mean, that's, I think, what you suggested, right? Second order resonance comes before the event, the hot flaring love, so to speak. Well, the problem is that the concepts are very tricky. I would say dispositional resonance comes first, right? The capacity, the callability, or the responsibility, right, towards the world comes first. I believe, because second order resonance is, you enter a sphere. I mean, as I always say, for the believer it would be the church, but for the music, those who have music as a sphere of resonance, it would be the concert hall, right? There, when you enter the hall, you already feel a kind of actually being at home, right, in this world. But I think this sense is the result of first order resonance. But I'm not sure. I find this very provoking. Let's think about it. But this. I think sometimes this is what is lacking with young people. I mean, this basic, maybe it's a lust for life, right? I sometimes think of Freud's libido, which you need to have in order to then experience a resonance. What is the center of the good life? I mean, what's the center of it? I mean, I try to define the good life as a life which has developed access of resonance in all four dimensions, right? You have to have some people with which you can resonate, the horizontal axis, some material realm with which you resonate, right? A sense of vertical connection, and a self-axis of resonance where you can be in resonance with your own body or with your experiences, with your dreams, with your memories maybe, right? But what's the center of it was your question, right? I mean, what's the center of... I don't know. But maybe the center really, I think the center, this is what there again, so Buber I like really a lot, right? I have to say. And he asked this question, what lies at the heart of my existence, right? And I think you have to have this sense that there is that there is a resonant connection, an axis of resonance, right? Which allows you to love the world in that sense. So maybe it's the vertical axis which is at the center, I probably would say. And I don't want to monopolize this here. Let me think. I put down all 10 questions, right? I mean, one thing I had not really talked about, it seems to me, you talk about the intrinsical importance of things, or how we can value them or realize them. I mean, for me, really, attentiveness is very important, right? I mean, callability is wide-angle attentiveness, I would say, right? Being open to what calls me. And I would definitely say, basically, everything which has eyes or a voice, I said already, right, is already kind of calling me. So when I turn down the Bangladeshi, I mean, this was your question, right? I would be, or people, the Aborigines, you said, right? I could not claim I love the Aborigines because I don't really know too much about them and I have not been in close contact to them. But when I say, I don't care for them, this is a kind of closure, right? Which is always problematic. So, and the intrinsic value for me comes through this sense. What I call resonance is always connected to strong evaluations. You only experience resonance if you accept the intrinsic value of the other, right? I mean that's resonance. That there is something which needs to be preserved in itself. This is something I have to do one day. Is write an ethics of resonance. I really want to do this, but it's clearly not a moral obligation, because that was a point you raised several times too, right? I mean, for me, I think maybe I have a neuronal deficiency or so. But somehow I don't want to think. I would almost say I can't think of this. I mean, this is when I started. I started with Charles Taylor, but there I was very much thinking about communitarians against liberals somehow, right? And it was deontological ethics versus, more an Aristotelian ethics or so. And somehow I find it's useless. I really think a problem of this world is this split. Right, I owe something to others which I don't want, right? I would rather want to have everything for myself, but unfortunately I owe you something, so here it is, take it or so, right? I find this wrong. I mean, really, I think these are rare occasions where we really can talk important things. I mean, I must say, for example, it's really true that I for myself, I always give, I don't always give to homeless or beggars. If someone approaches me, can you help me, please, right? I've decided I always want to give, and I do, right? At least $1 or €1, and if I have no less than 50 euros, I give it, right? And it's amazing to see what happens, right? But I don't do it out of a sense of obligation. I'm obliged, I owe it to him. I hate this kind of idea, right? I mean, it's really this, it's my feeling that there is someone calling me, and if I say, oh no, go away, I don't have anything, right? It's kind of, it's not doing the good, not doing the right thing, right? I think it's kind of injuring myself, right? So, but it's not, I can't I can't even feel this split, right? I don't want to give it to him. I want to have it for me, but unfortunately, I owe it to him. That's stupid, I think. I mean, I you know, whenever I'm in Denmark, you mentioned Roskilde. I remember our conversation very well. But whenever I'm there, people refer me to Løgstrup, right, the Danish philosopher, and I totally liked. I mean, it was kind of eye-opening. His article, "The Ethical Demand" or Command, I think it's called. And there he says, is loving someone egoistic or altruistic, right? Do I love you for myself or for the other, right? I mean, is it the other I'm directed to or myself? And then he says you could say it's egoistic and altruistic at the same time, but in fact it's neither. It's the wrong question, right? Love is a kind of relationship which you cannot say I do it for me or I do it for you. Now the interesting question, of course, is we don't love everyone, right? I mean, what do I owe to people who I don't love, right? But I really think, you know, when with the beggar in the street who approaches me, I don't love him or her, but still it's not obligation. I mean, maybe I don't know, maybe something's wrong with me, but that's the way I feel, right? I mean, you had so many questions, I'm kind of lost because the problem is I don't have the answers, right? I mean, one question which has also come up before is, I mean, you're completely right. I started thinking about it in alienation and resonance as opposites, right? You're either alienated or you're in resonance. And you also point out the entanglement of the two. I mean, I totally agree with this. And you know, but that's a problem for your theory too, I believe, or for what you presented, because you said in war you were talking to this person from Serbia, I think, right? Yeah. And where you said in under the most unlikely conditions, the most gruesome condition, there were moments of resonance, and I think that's absolutely true, right? It's in moments of deepest alienation where the possibility of deepest resonance is also high. I mean, I tried to capture this with the dialectics of alienation and resonance, and I really thought, without knowing that what you just told, I always thought that's probably so. And this is the problem. The problem I had in mind is that you said peace, right? I mean, somehow I would say yes, being in a peaceful condition makes it more likely that resonance appears, but maybe that's wrong. I mean, that's what you just said, right? Maybe it's wrong. Maybe it's more. I mean, Andrew just said that many pastors tell us that it's at funerals where they have the deepest elements of resonance, right? So it's not necessarily in the peaceful condition. And I think I had this in the dialectics of, it's very interesting, the dialectics of resonance and alienation. I actually say that maybe the depth of alienation or the deeper the alienation is which you suffer or which you experience in puberty or in adolescence, right? Mm-hmm. The deeper your own axis of resonance that develop out of this might be, right? I really think when you look at, it's amazing when you look at philosophers, artists, probably theologians, whatever, right? They go to very deep forms of alienation in puberty or in youth, right? Which then allows them to develop their axis of resonance. So I just created a student paper, I think it was a master thesis, and there he said, Rosa demands that young people should suffer, right? That's not exactly what I had in mind.
Zosima does.
Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, I think I leave it. Just the last thing was about the re-enchantment. I mean, there I really think it really depends on what you mean or what one means by this, because I'm almost inclined to say, yes, I demand the re-enchantment of the world, but in this sense of Rilke and others, what you could say, of course, it's kind of poetic, but also what Taylor says, that we go back not to a particular theory that tells me what is enchanted in which way, but in that we go back to a form of experiencing the world or being in the world that allows for resonance with things, with people, with kind of everything. I mean, I always say children are kind of in a resonant state. Not always they experience horrible forms of alienation too, but nevertheless for them the universe is animated, right? Everything is kind of possibly talking to them or addressing them. And I think in that sense, we should go back, or we could go back. I mean, that's what Latour says. That's what many, Karen Barad and others say, right? Overcoming this distance between the silent universe in which only human beings are capable of having a voice and speaking. I think that's really a problem, right? We need to find a form of being in the world where it's not just human beings who resonate and the rest of the world is silent. I think that really is part of the problem. So if the alternative is the re-enchanted universe, I would go for it. I think I leave it here. I need to write answers
Do
at
you want
one.
to respond
at
to
one
that? Miroslav?
Sure. How much time do we have? One nice long afternoon like we had in Roskilde would be great.
Yeah, we need to arrange for that.
Yeah. So I mean, let's take up this last point. I think I can't say that I read every single word of that of Charles Taylor's book and all the points. It's one of those again, 700 pages.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
It's wonderful in many ways. But it struck me also that obviously Charles Taylor, being Charles Taylor, he wants to. He's sensitive to whatever is happening on the ground that connects and redeeming. So it's a very Catholic impulse that he has, which I really appreciate. But at the same time, he states, although poets, modern poets are in almost like a verbally enchanting with the images, enchanting the world, nonetheless something like ontological motivation for such enchantment. By the way, he said to me in conversation about that book of his that he now regrets using this enchantment in the subtitle.
Yeah, he has it.
Of the book. So my sense is also that it's not enough simply for me to think that it's enchanted. I always think that it's almost like a Halloween, and I go through artificial thing, and all these spooky things happen, and that if the world itself is not, the poetry can end up being a kind of poetic version of Halloween experiences rather than actual engagement with the world. And for that, I need to have some kind of a ontological account of what makes a motivation. I don't have to have it for experience of it, but it seems to me at least that it's called for.
I mean, I think it just comes to my mind. I mean, I think you mentioned it, the Heine quote I had at the beginning, right? I mean, I really think it's possible, or what I have in mind is the question is, I mean, are the stones, I mean, I talk about resonance with a stone, right? Or with a mountain, or with the waves, right? All of this kind of stuff.
With them.
Yeah, but that's an enchanted world. I mean, if the waves talk to me, right? And I had this quote by Heinrich Heine, right, where he says, and I really think that's romantic irony, right? And you quoted it. I think he has the simultaneous experience that the waves. I mean, I really think it's the poem where I think the young man is standing at the ocean and he's talking to the waves, and then the poem says, and only a fool can expect an answer. And I think the point here is it's kind of both simultaneously, right? He expects the waves to answer, he somehow feels the waves to answer, and he somehow knows that they will not answer, and it's the simultaneity of meaning it and not meaning it, right? And yesterday, because I wrote this heavy metal book, which really was kind of eye-opening for me in that sense, that it's about this. You remember, those who are here present, I remember I quoted Ghost. It's a heavy metal band who have a song which is called He Is, right? And the interesting thing is, it says, for me, it's very forceful, right? He is the force that made me be, the light without which whom I cannot see, his insurrection, he is spite, right? And the interesting thing is you don't know who is he. He could be the devil, or literally, right? Or God, or he could be non-existent, right? And he is affirming and spite at the same time. So I think for me, this is the re-enchantment I have in mind. Not a theory who says the waves are saying this or that, right? But it's this simultaneous experience of and this is why I think it's not a theory or a theology or a sociology which will redeem us, but a different form of being in the world. I think I simply shut up. Let's open it.
Let me just say one more thing, and then we can go. I think it's. I think there are really very different kinds of loves.
Yeah.
Back to return, different kinds of loves.
Yeah.
And I've tried to sketch some of that. Even in Zosima, you have different kinds of loves. But then this kind of love that is always indexed to some kind of benefit that accrues to me, in relationship to something, which presumes then existentially, whatever the theory says, existentially, I treat objects as simply always indexed to my well-being through my and are filtered their significance through my desire for them, through my thirst.
But that would be Iman, right?
That will be Ivan, but that's a form of love, and it's predicated on this, I think, inability to recognize intrinsic value. That intrinsic value is not motivated in his account. And my interest was then to ask the question, well, how does it get motivated?
No, but I think that the answer is that we have to go beyond this subject-object division. I think that's probably the end where my thinking gravitates towards, and it's not just mine. I think many people are saying this, right? If you make this distinction, is it the intrinsic value of the object or is it indexed to me? I think that's already problematic.
Are you? I don't know. I think that's a kind of everyday experience that everyday experience that we have. Indeed, that experience is stabilized in gazillions ways by which we live our modern life. And so I take it that somebody like Schopenhauer, for whom this is the foundation of the entire pessimist philosophy, is that. What's desirable is what is desired, right? And once you make that claim, then it means that
what is desired is the good. I have two situations in mind. Let's say I find a cat which is suffering, right? Yeah. So I would try to maybe feed him or give him warmth or something, right? So again, is it because of the intrinsic good? I mean, somehow, yeah. I mean, I would try. I want to do the good, right? I mean, it's contributing to something which is good, but I would not split because it's good for the object or is it good for myself? It's good in itself, right? Participating in something which is good, having a part in a process or in a state of being which is good, right? So you encounter situations and you realize you have a sense of what is good. I always thought so. I mean, I often talk about the summer camps I'm running, right? And it's really interesting because every summer I do I'm responsible for a summer camp, but what I really do there, for example, this year, we had a kind of stomach virus, right? So all the time I was running around and caring, for the things which you would not do, which you normally would not do. And there I thought again, I mean, am I doing it for myself? Am I doing it for them? It's a pointless question, right? I'm trying to do the right thing, that which is good for the community, for the and I would say in the end for the world, right? I mean, so it's not the intrinsic value outside or good for me. It's the good in itself. It's in the relational. It's a relational good, maybe. I don't know. I give up.
Well, you're a genuinely good person. I'm trying to parse out. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead,
I'm taking it.
So maybe a question I'm curious about from this book, Flourishing. I can't remember who wrote it. Can you remind me? It's from one of my favorite authors, Miroslav Volf. You got this fantastic quote: "To put it in theological language, we enjoy things most when we experience them as sacraments, as carriers of the presence of another. Now think of the world as a gift. If the world is a gift, then all things to which you relate, and many to which you don't, are also God's relation to you." I'm wondering if experiencing things and not asking the question, them or me, but turning that question vertical and saying, like, my relation to God informs my love for the other, and the obligation goes this direction, not horizontally.
For me, even in formulation, that's how it goes. But then presumably I parse it out, right? And then if I think about particular things, these particular things have, apart from my relationship to them, they have the reality of their own. They're good. I mean, for me, that comes out in Genesis account. God creates the world, each set of critters that God makes. God proclaims as good, doesn't make them good by proclamation. This is kind of declarative statement of the reality of the thing. And then toward the end, basically God says, and look, presumably he has audience. It was very, very good. And my sense there is something like existential goodness. Hannah Arendt expressed it this way, which says, it is good that you are. It is good that the world is. Yeah. Apart from my relationship, now, when I come to scene, you're good whether I'm seen or not. And then when I come there, my responsibility and my fulfillment, I don't want to contrast responsibility and fulfillment. My responsibility and my fulfillment is to honor that goodness which is there, to recognize it, and let me and it kind of bloom.
Yeah.
Nancy?
I wonder if something that deals with the tension between how the two of you are talking about love, where you're thinking about, is it kind of an instrumental, what's in it for me, am I doing this out of obligation, et cetera, and how you're talking about it as a relational dynamic. I think of Bell Hooks in All About Love, where she talks about love, that we need to define love not as an emotion, but to act lovingly. What does it mean to act lovingly? And she talks about that in terms of mutual spiritual growth. And I see that as kind of being a bridge between what the two of you are talking about. Do you think so?
Yeah, I think so too. It's this sense of...
I think so too. So the bridge is there.
Yeah, I think it's both. It's kind of preserving. I think it's true with this being thing. Very often we find out that we think pretty similarly, right? I think the thing is kind of preserving what is there, right? And at the same time trying to make it grow, right? Unfold, flourish, right? This sense of, so that's what I often thought that at one point I asked myself, isn't resonance theory very conservative? Because I want to preserve what is there, that what is being. But I thought it's not at all conservative in a political sense, because I do not want to preserve a certain structure, right, or a certain order. I want to preserve what is there, everything that is there, and even if it's shrewd from my perspective, right? I want it to flourish and to live. And I thought, I have this pen, sometimes I do it, right? I could break it now. And I'm pretty sure at the moment where I break it, you would somehow shrink, right? Because this kind of the destruction of what is there is something that somehow hurts, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
One of my biggest questions is how do we translate this to a secular society? How do we translate the concept of an orientation of emptying or dying to self, of a kenotic act, to orient to the good, to generations who are even more steeped in a buffered immanent frame and struggle more and more with that interaction or dialogue with the world, in a hierarchy of imperial thought over sensual experience, in a culture that grooms even more enclosure and less dialogue. As poets or as clergy speaking into the world, how do we translate what we know or what we've experienced through alienation or contemplation or education, experiences of grace, in a way where Taylor talks about the poet creating their own universe, right? It's their job now. We don't take in the universal mimetic. We have to take in and then construct from our own experience. How do you encourage, in Cohen's terms, how do you break people open?
I would say,
Philip, why don't you come up here too?
my idea is, yes, definitely,
Andy?
yeah.
Mitchell, yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a slight problem with the panels of this, right? They tend to focus on the second contribution all the time. Yeah, but you know, I mean, from resonance theory, I would really say, as human beings, we are already open, right? It's only you can kind of verschütten, right? It can get lost somehow, but there's still the openness. The crack is there because in the way we become subjects, right? This is why what I just said, I start the book with Anna and Hannah, right? With two experiences. And I think even in a completely secular world, you can really ask, how does it feel, right? Actually, I mean, you describe, right, this kind of, I would say, loving relationship to the world or to others, and the selfish maybe. And I would really say that people do experience this difference, and they can experience the difference between feeling. That's why I always use the ocean, for example. I really say, look at you physically and the way you breathe. It's a different form of being in the world and to the world when you stand at the ocean from when you are in the supermarket. And I'm not saying the supermarket is bad, but look at the way you are, right? Your psyche, or you could say soul or psyche, right? And I think in a most secular setting, you would realize it's a different form of breathing, it's a different form of thinking. And very secular people say, I need to go out to the green, right, to the forest or so to feel myself. It's exactly this sense of an axis between my innermost reality and some encompassing outer reality. So I really think I think we can start from secular experience and then slowly build up and end up with resonance theory, which then leads you directly to theology, as we see.
But you have the same. So when I think of experiences in reading Dostoevsky, that's just would be one model. But you have it in Crime and Punishment. You have it also in Brothers K. You know, there's some theories that kind of the sticky leaves are a bridge from which Ivan can get to where he needs to get. I'm not entirely sure. It could be, but you find something, say, in Raskolnikov and Svidrigailov. You find exemplar of things. Now Raskolnikov is in the throes of this quasi little Napoleonic striving and inability to realize it, but in the midst of it, out of the blue, he drops 25 rubles for the funeral of a friend, right? Or similar acts happen, and it's only that, in a sense, they're there. It's almost like that there are these holes through which light comes in, but he doesn't know, and it's not quite able to do anything with it. He kind of lets it sit, and then it kind of, he dies, flashes and dies, right? And so I think there's something to build on. And the question is, how does one capture this that has actually concretely occurred, and how does one open the person, build on this? And you have I mean, it's a heavy duty, and one may question Sonia's relationship to Raskolnikov. It's not necessarily a model that one wants 100% to endorse, but you can see what she does in relationship to him, what her relationship to him does for him. I'd want to make it reciprocal in many ways, so I want to some of the feminist critiques of this, but nonetheless, it seems to me as a pattern of thought, as a very significant.
I wanted to just bring in Philip, recover something that we didn't pick up in the last conversation, and I think it's a very important piece because I wanted Rosa Hartmut to respond to it, and that is your reference to eschatology, because there's so much in Hartmut's work about temporality and time, and there's so much in our world that relates to this, and eschatology is such a crucial piece of how we think about time, and especially in terms of the future, and you talked a lot about the loss of the future. Could you speak briefly to that, Philip, and then I'd love for you to respond, Hartmut.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, there's lots to say, or that could be said. A couple things that struck me when I was thinking, kind of on the way towards the paper. One was, I was interested to think, as a piece of sociology of theology, the extent to which our post-war fascination with eschatology, the kind of recovery of the importance of the future, is of a piece with your sense of the kind of temporalized understanding of human being, right? That the importance of the recovery of the idea of the importance of the future. Right? It's kind of a piece with that. But there's something quite striking then about the sort of detemporalizing of time, which might suggest that kind of eschatology, which is strongly invested in the progressive, doesn't have the kind of traction on our experience of the world in the way that it might once have had, right? And so the thought that your work might be a provocation for theologians to think again about the nature of eschatological time, the question of eternity, what it means. I mean, the formulation I had in the paper, kind of programmatic at the end, is what's the connection between the analysis of the compression and loss of time and the theological science or reflection on the fullness of time. We had a discussion before Rahel's comment on the first day. Someone picked up in the Q&A too about the difference between the sort of the idea of in that case it was this discussion about the afterlife. The idea of the afterlife is a kind of infinite extension of time, ever more time, a kind of quantitative idea, or the kind of the requalification of time. You know, what does it look like for finite time to be, say, redeemed, right, or qualified by a certain kind of divine predication or judgment, mercy. Think of the language you might reach for there. I mean, those kinds of questions are all interesting, and whether or not the redescribing that in the language of resonance or thinking about the features that you pulled out in thinking about resonance might help us to describe that qualification would be an interesting exercise, you know, both the limits and the possibilities of that. Yeah, it's just start for 10.
I think temporality is very important, and it's very interesting to think about it. I mean, you know, I feel ambivalent about it when I think about Christian temporality anyway, because I sometimes I write that we can turn to Christian thinking, for example, right, to find a different understanding of time, right? That finite time is somehow aufgehoben, right, elevated in a kind of sacred time, or so. It transforms my experience of everyday temporality. So I claim, when I want to see in our accelerated age, right, if I want to get a different sense of time, it's a good idea to look to that, right? But on the other hand, because of the expectation of the imminence of Judgment's Day, right? The logic of acceleration, we don't have much time, right? Is of course a kind of Christian thing too, right? So somehow you have both, right? And I think the eschatology, actually, if I understand it correctly, I think it always had the kind of the double meaning. It's somehow a threat, because you could go to hell. You could be damned, right? But it's also a promise, right? It will be the salvation, right? In a certain sense, and then we have secularized this. I really believe. I mean, in German, actually, we use this term Neuzeit. It's you don't really have that in English, right? But it's kind of modernity, but it doesn't capture it. The new time, right? We really call the present age, or after 1789, the Neuzeit, the new time. And as far as I understand it, this was a secularization of religious time, right? But it was the idea that we go towards some kind of finite. You probably are aware of this. Then people have said, well, Karl Marx, for example, with the idea that we are now in history, but once the classless society will be a reality, the new time, right? The salvation will come. So we kind of secularized it, and we wanted to do it by ourselves. And I think this is certainly one of the things that got social acceleration going, growth, acceleration, innovation towards creating this world. But now the other aspect of it, namely the horror, right, the threat, has come to dominate. Right now we're going towards the abyss. Right, there is not much hope for creating the paradise, but a lot of fear of creating the opposite, right? So. Yeah.
The language of novelty, of newness, would be another interesting vector to think through the eschatological, right? I mean, we've been talking about the future, but the idea that there might be a theological notion of the requalification of our present time as new in some way, the kind of gift of new time. The redemption of time, in time, those sorts of ideas would be ways of thinking if you could pull the notion of newness out of that modern progressivism, and it may be that actually something about your description of our kind of predicament has already shaken loose the connection between eschatology and progress for us, right? In ways that might be sort of, an invitation for theologians to think again about whether we can have an idea of the advent of the new that's not bound up in progressivist sensibilities.
No, I think that seems to me a really fruitful way of thinking about it, because I think one way to think, well, in my estimation, of the new and eschatologically, it's the new that does not become old, right? Which is to say, the abiding that keeps being fresh and it retains its newness. And that's exactly opposite to the processes of acceleration, because they are predicated on obsolescent, on constantly making obsolescent what is there. And I think that may help us. And it seems to me that there may be also modes of retaining the old into redemption of the old into the new that are not necessarily connected with kind of eternalization of the past. That one can have a dynamic sense of the eschatological future without simply giving in to the obsolescence, constant obsolescence.
Yeah. I suppose another possibility too would be someone was kind enough to speak to me at the break and to remind me about J. Louis Martin's notion of kind of bifocal vision, right? That the Christian is put in a position of seeing the old through lenses of the new, right? Yeah. And that both of those perspectives are kind of coextensive, right? And you need to move back and forth. And that would be another way in which the eschatological might be kind of reworked here, right? That there's a view of the old in its old terms, but there's also a view of the old in its new terms. Sorry, that's my new gesture, right? There's a view of the old in the new terms, and that seen in terms of the advent of the new, right, or the gift of the possibility of the new, or however one might want to say that. The old, even the old looks different. It's a kind of, you were just saying, not the eternalization of the old, the kind of the valorization of it, but the sifting of it, right? The kind of what's alive and what's dead in the present, right? What lives and what passes away, right? The sense of this might be a way in which the sense of the eschatological as judgment might also be sort of thought again, right? Not in the sort of terrifying fear of the future, but in the sense that we really are reliant on the sifting of the good from the not good, of the true from the false, of that which has a future and that which has no future, not because we've decided it, but because somehow it comports with the gift of the good that God gives.
Yeah. In a sense, what you've just described, I think, might fall under the category. What Apostle Paul writes, the form of this world is passing, not the world, but the form of the world. And so one can play with various forms without the evaluation of the worldliness itself.
And the notion of the phrase, behold, all things have become new. I mean, so we have this mysterious disposition about the future. And what is that? How does that relate? And I think, Hartmut, one of the most powerful, I think, things that commends your work to us is all of your thinking about temporality. It is so deeply suggestive theologically to us. And I think that throws it back to us, I think, in many ways, to take this on and to continue that dialogue with you around that and so many other things.
But I think, you asked what do we do if in a secular world, right? I mean, one problem is really that we come, from a secular perspective, we don't have this notion of higher time or sacred time, right? So the question is really, can we do without it, or can we redeem that sense from a merely secular perspective? And this I find very difficult. And the other question, of course, is, and that's very interesting too, because from a Christian perspective, as far as I understand, right, the new is not yet here. It will come, but it will not come by our doing, right? But there will be a kind of decisive break in temporality, right? And that's, of course, also not something that you can do in a secular way, right? There are other forms. I must say that in my residence I get a bit confused about. I don't know what I think anymore. Don't talk to the theologians, you will get completely confused. But somehow I think it's a different sense. I probably have a different sense that the world is already resonance. We just lost the capacity to see it. Somehow I am inclined to think, right?
Yes.
So that means it's not only after some break in time that the world will become resonant, right? It already is.
Isn't already and not yet. Sort of things we talk
Yeah.
about. And we have these rituals of anticipation, one of which is the Eucharist. And so I think there is it's more complicated. Yeah. Well,
We're out of time.
It's appropriate we end talking about final things.
Let's give them a hand.
So we want to say thank you.
We want to just close and thank you all for being here. It's been a wonderful conversation. Thanks to this panel. Thanks to everyone involved. Just a few quick thank yous. First of all, thank you to Kate and Hank in the fishbowl over there. They did a great job. Thank you for that. You want to thank everyone online. And we want to thank Jessica Duckworth from the Lilly Endowment for her support of this and our grant. And then we also want to thank Princeton Seminary, and my former classmate, President Walton, is here. We want to thank him for coming and thank him for opening the institution to us and the blessing it's been to be here. And then finally, thanks to all the speakers for coming and all of you for joining in this conversation. It's been wonderful. Safe travels. God bless you.